Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how I painted this. Hey guys, John here with another Gamer Multi-Class video, and today I'm going to be showing you a work in progress of an Earth Elemental miniature. This is by Duncan Shadow Luca, and there's a link to his Patreon page in the description for this video. This is a 3D printed model, and it's basically one step removed from the printer. I've gone ahead and cut off the supports that were printed with it. You can kind of see some of the rough areas here where that's where the supports were. So I'll probably go ahead and patch those up with some filler before painting it. And speaking of that, I'll be back once I've gone ahead and primed it and base coated it. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add some sand texture to the base. So I'm just going to add some white glue directly to the base, full strength. Then I'm going to spread it out. I'm going to use a little bit of water just to thin it a little bit, make it spread a little bit easier. And I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to keep it within the beveled edge of the base, but if it goes outside, I'll just wipe it off with my finger. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're ready for the sand. I've got my little tub of play sand right here. This is super simple. Just pour it on. Shake off the excess. Clean up the edges if necessary. And then once that's dry, I'm going to glue the mini on top. Okay, the sand is dry, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the base before I attach the Earth Elemental to it, because it's just going to be easier to do it that way rather than after he's attached. And it kind of depends on the mini. Sometimes I'll glue it down and then finish the base, but this time I'm going to paint it first at least. And I'm just using some cheap craft paint here. So we have Nutmeg from Folk Art. And when you're doing base work like this, no need to use expensive miniature paints. You can just get away with the cheaper stuff, save a little money. And I'm just going to slop it on. I'm going to thin it out a little bit, just dipping the brush in water to just help it spread easier. And I'm not going to be terribly concerned about the edge. I'm just going to go back and I was going to paint it black anyway after this was all done, so I'll just fix all the paint that gets on it at that point. Okay, and it's actually, I squeezed out a little bit too much there, so I'm going to take a little bit off. It's a little tricky to gauge sometimes exactly how much paint you need. And I'm just being really, I'm just trying to do this quick and dirty, like I said, just slopping it on. This is not precision work by any means. Alright, there we go. Fully covered. And now we just gotta wait for that to dry, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, now that the base is dry, I'm going to highlight it with Folk Art Linen. Just going to dry brush it on. And I'm going to apply it fairly heavily. And this will make a big difference right away. It's pretty clear that it's going on. Yeah, this is not a subtle effect. Sometimes when you dry brush, it's more subtle than others. This is going for a high contrast here. And that's as far as it goes. I mean, that's all there is to it for painting the base. I'm going to probably apply some other basing materials later on, but the only thing left now to do is to clean up the edge with some black paint and glue the miniature down. Okay, I've gone ahead and cleaned up the base and glued the Earth Elemental down. Now, one side note, when you glue on top of sand as opposed to gluing the miniature right to the base and then adding the sand afterwards, it doesn't create quite as strong of a bond as if you glue the miniature directly to the base. So, you know, there's always a trade-off. I mean, it's easier to do it the way I did, but it creates a weaker bond. But in this case, it's fine. It's strong enough. Alright, so the next step is to start dry brushing, and I'm going to be using the Stone Colors Triad from Reaper. So we've got Shadowed Stone, Stone Gray, and Weathered Stone. And I'm just going to be applying these each in order over the entire mini. And again, this is a relatively straightforward, simple paint job, so I'm just going to be using a fairly large brush to do this, just to get it done quicker since I'm just doing the whole thing. And there's not really any need to be careful about not getting the color on other areas since it's going to be literally applied over the whole thing. I've gone ahead and primed it, or base coated it with Shadowed Stone, and then I applied a wash of Strong Tone from Army Painter to get in the recesses and help create some shadows and bring out the details. So now I'm going to be bringing the color back up by dry brushing the Shadowed Stone back onto it. And I'm just going to use it directly straight out of the bottle. No need to use a palette or to thin it. And there's not gonna be much of a dramatic difference with this color, but it's there, and you'll see more difference with the next two colors, particularly the lightest one. So I'm just gonna work my way around the whole mini with each color, and then it'll be mostly done. Okay, you can see some contrast now that I've finished dry brushing the first layer, and I've also gone back and did a little bit more base work. I added a couple of stones because I think it might help blend the miniature in better, or a little bit better. This way it's not just like this rocky creature that's just emerged and basically no other stones of that color on the ground. Just trying to make it look more like he's part of the landscape. And so the next color is Stone Gray, and same as last time, full strength, straight from the bottle. Dry brush it on, and I'll see you when this step's complete. Okay, Stone Gray is done. One more layer of highlighting to go with Weathered Stone, and I'll see you when that one's complete. Okay, dry brushing is just about done. Now, since this is a pretty monochrome piece, I'm going to go back and add a little bit of linen white to the Weathered Stone, and I'm just going to hit the like spiky bits that are sticking out here and there, just to try to make them stand out a little bit more, give a little bit more visual interest and just variety to this mini. So I'll be right back. Okay, I've highlighted the spiky bits with a lighter color, and painting's done. So the last thing that has to be done now is to add some more detail and finish the base. And normally with a relatively quick paint job like this, I would just throw some static grass down and call it good. But I'm going to try something a little bit different because I want to give add a little more color and visual interest again. And so what I'm going to do is apply some flock, not just to the base, but over portions of the entire mini to kind of simulate the moss and little bits of foliage that were growing on the rocks that comprise this particular earth elemental. So first I'm going to do a literal dry run here, and this could be useful like if you're experimenting with different colors of flocks and other basing material. If you want to see what it'll look like before committing to it. So I'm just going to So I haven't actually applied any glue. I'm just going to drop it on, sprinkle it on, and just to kind of get a sense of what it looks like. And it went on a little bit thick there, so I'm just shaking it off. I'm going to redo that. But, alright. Yeah, I think that color looks pretty good. So, I'm going to shake this off and do it for real this time. And the way I'm going to do this is by applying a small amount of glue with a brush to various spots, and then just sprinkle the flock on just like I did. And the trick here is to be random and to go kind of light. You can always add more later, but I want to have kind of a sparse look to the moss and the grass and foliage. So I'll start with that. I didn't do the whole model yet. Just gonna sprinkle it on. And then I'm gonna shake off and knock off the excess, see where it's collected, and go from there. Okay, pretty good so far. Got a little bit more than I like right there, so I'm just going to wipe it off. Comes off really easily. Don't even need to use a brush, I'm just using my finger. Alright, so far so good. I'm going to finish up the mini, and I'll see you again once that's done. So this is our Earth Elemental now that I've finished applying the flock to the entire thing. And I really like the way that looks. I think it added a good amount of color and life to the mini. And not only that, but I think it really helped tie the base in with the miniature. Okay, so for the final detail, I'm going to be applying some grass tufts. And the way to do this, just pry a tuft off the sheet, add some white glue at full strength, and press it into place. And kind of similar to the flock, the key here is just kind of being random and not overdoing it. So I'll put a few on the miniature itself, and then I'll put some on the base. Incidentally, if you ever have any base work that has some flaws or errors on it, if you know that you're going to be using grass tufts at the end, you can kind of just not worry about them and then just cover them up with the tufts. Alright, well, once again, I will be back shortly after I finish applying the tufts. Okay, and there we have the completed miniature. I might go back and touch up some of the black paint on his base because got some little marks and scuffs on it just from handling and from part of the painting process, but other than that, he's complete, and I'm going to call him good. Thanks again to Duncan Shadow Luca for sculpting this great mini, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and check out the Gamer Multi-Class blog for the pictures that I take of this and some other great content. Alright, till next time, peace out, happy gaming.